Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and salam sejahtera. So this is the video for hypothesis testing part 2.2, difference between two population mean, and this video is focusing on dependent or PET t-test. The repeated or PET t-test is also referred to as dependent t-test or dependent samples. It's used when you have data only from one group of participants. In other words, individual obtain two scores under different level of the independent variables. So basically, you sebenarnya hanya ada satu sampel, cuma kita ambil skor dia pada dua keadaan ataupun situasi yang berbeza. Biasanya, kita ambil before and after sesuatu perkara. Contoh comparison. Does attending a motivation seminar increase the productivity of employees? So what are we trying to do here is employee yang sama, cuma kita tengok productivity level sebelum dia attend seminar dan selepas dia attend seminar. Or another example is, does a type of diet make a difference in weight? So kita nak compare weight before diet and after diet for each person. So please take note that sample are considered dependent sample when subject are PET match in some way. So di sini sebenarnya you ada the same subject used. The generic assumption underlying all type of t-tests are scale of measurement should be at least interval, random sampling where the score should be randomly sampled from the population of interest, and normality, where the score should be normally distributed in the population. One additional assumption is normality of population differences scores. The difference between the scores for each participant should be normally distributed, providing the sample is not too small. In every hypothesis testing, we should start with step 1 by stating the statistical hypothesis. So here in PET sample test or dependent t-test, we use mu d to denote the difference between after and before or vice versa. So there are one-tailed test and also two-tailed test. Next, in step 2, we should find our critical values, where if the value is within the critical region, we reject our H null. If it's not, we do not reject our H. So to find our critical values, please refer to T distribution table, no matter the size or whether the population variance is known or unknown. We can test our hypothesis using 3 methods, either traditional method, p-value method, and the confidence interval method, same as before. To test our hypothesis using the traditional method, we can find T by using this formula, where D is our mean difference with degree of freedom n minus 1. Or we can find our T value from our SPSS output here. In this example, if you want to calculate manually, the mean difference will be 25.44 minus 29.28 minus 0, because in our hypothesis, kita nak test mu d equal to 0 or not equal to 0. Alright? And standard of error bahagi dengan standard error of mean. So actually, both of these value can be found in your SPSS output. This is your mean difference. So in this case, apa yang kita buat? Kita buat pre minus post. Our standard error is here. Or kita boleh pakai formula sebelum ni, standard deviation bahagi dengan set n. So compare this value, your T value with your critical values. If within the critical region we reject, not within the critical region, we do not reject our H null. We can also test the hypothesis by using the p-value method. The p-value will be given in your SPSS output, and dia bagi you p-value for two-tailed test. Please keep in mind that for a one-tailed test, you should divide your p-value by 2. If you want to test the hypothesis using confidence interval, boleh calculate manually by using this equation, or you boleh dapatkan daripada SPSS output. Plus, but please alert, okay, SPSS output bagi berapa persen confidence interval. If dia bagi 95%, soalan suruh calculate 99%, then you have to calculate manually. Once you already decide which method to use, you can make decision whether to reject or not to reject H0, and the process sama macam sebelum ni. Traditional method, dalam critical region, reject. Tak ada dalam critical region, do not reject. P-value, less than or equal to alpha, reject. Greater than alpha, do not reject. And for confidence interval method, if 0 is not in the confidence interval, we reject our H0. If 0 is in the confidence interval, we do not reject our H0. Make your conclusion. So you have to answer what the question wants and conclude whether there is or there is not enough evidence to support the claim stated in the question. Okay, let's look at example number 1. So students were randomly selected to participate in a series of motivation learning workshop for a duration of 3 months, and the score were obtained before attending the workshop and then again after the series of workshop. So test whether the motivation learning is effective in building intrinsic factors in motivating the student to learn at alpha 0.05. So here you were given an output. Dia bagi you pre-score sebelum pergi motivation workshop dan post-score selepas pergi motivation workshop. So this is PET sample statistics. Kenapa? Pelajar yang sama, cuma kita measure dia sebelum pergi dan selepas pergi. Dependent sample. So dia bagi you mean untuk pre-score and post-score. So from here kita dapat tengok the PET difference. Okay, mean adalah negatif 3. Mana dia dapat? Dalam kes ini, dia dapat negatif apabila dia buat pre tolak post score. Okay. Dia bagi you 95% confidence interval. So, kita tengok macam mana nak jawab claim ni. Sama ada motivation learning course itu efektif atau tidak. So, kalau efektif, maksudnya dia punya score should be greater. Skor yang mana yang greater? Selepas pergi motivation learning workshop, the score should be higher. So, kalau efektif, post mesti ada higher score. Okay. So, daripada SPSS output, kita tengok dia calculate mean difference pre minus post. So, kalau you nak check this claim, post score should be higher dan pre tolak post should dapat negatif. So, your hypothesis will be mu D greater than 0 or mu D is less than 0. Now, kenapa kita punya alternative mu D less than 0? Because daripada claim yang soalan buat ataupun daripada perkara yang ditanya dalam soalan. Adakah the motivation course itu will improve ataupun efektif atau tidak? So, kalau efektif, post should be higher than pre. So, daripada output, dia buat pre minus post. So, kalau post higher than pre minus post, you patut dapat nilai negatif. Barulah consider as effective. Okay, the critical value with alpha 0.05 refer to your T distribution table. Alpha over 2 with degree of freedom 24, you should get plus minus 2.064. So to test your hypothesis, you can use either one of these three methods. Okay, so dia pakai alpha 95%, 5%, alpha 0.05. You can straight away ambil nilai daripada your SPSS output. So, to make decision whether to reject or not to reject H null based on the method used, if you are using traditional method, since t is equivalent to negative 2.343, which is less than your critical value 2.064, is in the critical region, thus we reject our H null. If you are using the p-value method, then the p-value is less than your alpha 0.05, also we reject our H null. And if you are using the 95% confidence interval, so this is a one-sided test, okay, one-tailed test. So you were given 95% confidence interval is negative 7 to negative 0.4. So since the upper bound is equivalent to negative 0.458, indicate that the mean difference is unlikely to be greater than or equal to 0. Thus, we reject our H null. So, make your conclusion. There is sufficient evidence to indicate that motivation learning is effective in building intrinsic factors in motivating to drive their trust for students to learn at alpha 0.05. So next example number 2. An archery equipment manufacturer has developed a new arrow release. The manufacturer wants to know if it performs better than the old arrow release. So, dia tanya adakah yang baru lebih baik daripada yang lama. 50 archers of varying ability are selected and their average scores with both type of release are measured. So, the computer output of the scores is given below. So, here we can see that dia bagi you the new archer and the old one. Okay, the new arrow release and the old arrow release. So, dekat sini, dia buat new minus old or old minus new. So, you boleh tengok dekat sini, new minus old. So, kalau dia kata perform better, then new minus old should be lebih baik. Greater than 0. Okay? So the question. Show that the value of test statistics is negative 0.23. So, macam nak buat? New punya mean tolak old daripada SPSS output minus 0 bahagi dengan your SE. Okay? Nilai ni semua boleh dapat daripada your SPSS output. B. Give the null an alternative hypothesis. Now, kenapa saya buat my alternative hypothesis mu D greater than 0? Sebab tadi dia buat dalam SPSS output, kita tahu dia cari mean difference by buat new minus old punya score. So, kalau dia claim new is better than the old one, so new minus old should be greater than 0, menandakan yang new lebih baik daripada the old one. Test at 5% level of significance whether the new arrow release is an improvement over the old arrow release. So, since dia tak bagi tahu pakai yang mana, saya pilih P value. But then, please make sure that untuk soalan macam ni, you should start from step 1, 2, 3 onwards. But kita dah buat step 1 dekat sini. Okay, you dah state your hypothesis. So, kita masuk step 2. Alpha 0.05. Step 3, kita pakai p-value method. So, since p-value sama dengan 0.822 bahagi 2. Kenapa bahagi 2? This is a one-tailed test. Greater than alpha 0.05, thus we do not reject our H null. Okay, so this is step 4. Your decision, and last sekali, step 5, your conclusion. So what is our conclusion? There is no significant evidence to support the claim that the new arrow release is an improvement over the old arrow release. D. State the 95% confidence interval for the mean difference. So, the mean difference untuk 95% CI adalah negative 2 sampai 2.20. boleh terus ambil sebab dia suruh test at alpha 0.05. So, dia tanya lagi dalam soalan E, does the result in D support your conclusion in C? Okay, the answer is yes. Dia tanya, do the result support your conclusion? You mesti jawab yes. Kenapa you cakap yes? Since 0 is in the 95% CI. Maksudnya di sini, perbezaan di antara new dengan old, okay, we are 95% confidence that the difference will be between -2 sampai 2. So, ada possibility perbezaan itu 0. So, kalau perbezaannya 0, tak ada improvement. Alright? So, I guess that's all for hypothesis testing for 2 means. So, I hope that you understand. If you have any question regarding this chapter or any chapter before this, please do not hesitate to ask me. So, thank you everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.